Be careful who you go to. I think you want to vet and make sure people have had the real type of success that you're looking for. You know how much money ideally they were making if that's important to you.
Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome to 5-Minute Founders, the show where we pick the brains of actual founders for the strategies, growth hacks, and stories of how they built their own companies. I'm your host, Matt LeBlanc, and today we are talking to the founder of Pineapple Products and Revival Point, Brett Alcorn. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, great to be here.
Let's jump right in. What is your business and what pain points does it solve for?
Sure. So my business is a health supplement company. It's focused towards older Americans. I would say there's a variety of pain points, but the ones that typically work best are either the biggest or the ones that have the least good solutions. So if there's no good medication or the medication is not great for one reason or another, and there haven't been any good solutions, but suddenly there is a supplement that is not super commonplace like vitamin C that people know about already, that's a real opportunity. Certainly there's a limited number of solutions out there like that, but they exist.
Absolutely. So you do health supplements now. You actually, you started in business, sort of in a very different business. You're doing a speaker series, I believe, right? The sort of entrepreneur gene, we'll call it, runs really deeply. You were the kid, you were selling rocks, you were selling school supplies to your classmates. I thought you had a really interesting story in sort of how you got involved in business as an adult. Sometime kind of around college, you got really enthusiastic about meetup.com. You were going to a lot of business events, a lot of sort of like self-help events. You eventually took one of those events over and you started to produce this speaker series, which sort of evolved into your first company. You were recording those talks and putting them out on the internet. You turned it into a program. But what that really did was you strike me as the kind of person who is very good at asking strangers for advice and for help. I wonder... it seems like you put your 10,000 hours in that area. I wonder if there's any tips that you have in terms of like bedside manner or, approaching business people for advice that maybe you don't know that well.
A lot of people just don't plain ask at all. And so maybe this changes if you're, somebody super famous who's also an entrepreneur. Maybe you're inundated with requests for help from people and it sort of flips. But, from my perspective, I'm pretty eager to help people just because I get so few requests and it's such a rare thing. And so, if somebody's just looking to grow and learn, I sympathize with that because, I've had to learn a lot of hard lessons myself. And so if I'm able to help someone up the stairs here, and avoid some pitfalls, like I'm more than happy to do that. And that's something I don't think that I really got when I was younger. Like I was like, no one's going to want to help me because, it's effort and time and they've, put all this time into learning the secrets of success. And so why would they want to give those away to some random stranger, especially somebody who's younger and maybe hasn't figured out what they want to do and isn't on some really clear burning mission to change the world or whatever. And they're just like kind of trying to figure things out more. But actually, having gone down the path myself, I've actually found that there are people that don't want to help for various reasons. And, I think try to be ready for that. Like some people don't like the being rejected. Like I don't want to send this guy an email and then have him say no thanks or not reply, right? That doesn't feel great, right? Like it kind of feels like the universe telling you you're no good and give up on this thing, because nobody wants to help you. But, there's lots of reasons that people don't want to help. Probably the biggest one just being that they're busy and they might be dealing with a lot of problems or have a really crazy goal that they're working on and just not have the time to respond. But there's also a lot of people where they're at a point in their career, maybe they sold a business and they're kind of at this point in between businesses where they've got a lot of free time. I tend to find that that's a great time to ask people for help. There's no way to know for sure if anyone's what place they're in. You should pretty much ask no matter what. But there are people out there who want to help, and I think that's kind of the first step. Is that there's lots of reasons. The other reason could be, people have kind of they've ascended the ladder to a certain point where they've accumulated so much knowledge that I think this is a stage most people go through in their lives. They feel like giving it back, that's one of the most impactful things that they could do, because it's easy to share knowledge that you've learned. And if you're like, wow, I could save somebody 2 years of going down the wrong path just by answering their question over email, like you do want to do that. Hopefully that just encourages people to ask. As for, asking, I mean, I think it's always good to kind of explain where you're coming from. Like if you're, just figuring this out, just say, hey, I'm just trying to figure this out. I'm trying to decide if I do this thing or this thing. I've got this one question. I think if you can limit the scope of what you want, and
yeah,
not just that it requires less time of the other person, but that they're more clear on the specifics of the request. If the request is kind of like, I need help, but like there's no specifics in the request, I think people are more likely to ignore it, because it's like, well, what meets the definition of you getting the help that you need, right? Like it's sort of unclear. Whereas certain people have said, hey, I want to go into your industry and I'm thinking about that industry or this other industry. And can I talk to you for 10 minutes to try to decide? That's a real thing that somebody asked me that I got on a call with them about, and I was more than happy to tell them, like, here's what I like and what I don't like about my industry, having been in it for X amount of years.
Yeah.
And so part of it was like, this person had a specific piece of information that they wanted, and they had a specific amount of time that they wanted from me. And so I think that's also very helpful as well. And then, obviously you can get involved in masterminds and pay people for help. That's a great way to do it. So, be careful who you go to. I think you want to vet and make sure people have had the real type of success that you're looking for. How much money ideally they were making, if that's important to you, what kind of business they were running, that they were truly successful, because I've definitely, fallen, I don't know if you want to say fallen prey, but I've made the mistake of learning from, false gurus before. And that's frustrating. Bad information is worse than no information at all a lot of times.
Interesting. Yeah. Brett, I think that's really what sort of like activates me so much about your story is what you're talking about here is a lot of tenacity. I know that when you were sort of starting out, you really had to build a couple of core skills to get yourself started. You went to school, I believe, for industrial design. There was some product design in there. And then really quickly, when pushing your speaker series, you learned that affiliate marketing was going to be really important and essential to what you did. And so you've really turned yourself into an expert in that space. Is there something about affiliate marketing that you see a lot of people stumble over or a lot of people get wrong?
I first want to specify, because I did start out with affiliate marketing, that it was very specific in how it happened. And affiliate marketing, I think can mean a lot of different things. It's sort of like a branch topic to cover many different things.
Sure.
So what it meant for me in that specific situation where I was getting started was that there were other people running businesses like my own, and they had a information course, a video course that they were selling. And so essentially, after they sold this video course to people, they didn't have anything else to sell them. Online course business is similar to like books, right? Like you want to learn about business, you might read hundreds of business books over your life, right? It's not winner takes all, right? But if you're going to buy a new cell phone and you buy Apple and not Android over the next 2 years, it's pretty cutthroat, right? Apple takes all that money. Android, Samsung, all those other competitors get zero. And so there's not a lot of cross promotion happening between those companies because of that reason. In my industry, I was lucky to be in an environment where cross promotion made sense, where you could say, hey, why don't you took my course? You should take this other guy's great course. He's got great information for you too. And you can double your knowledge and double your results. And just makes sense for everybody, right? So it was, a win for me, win for the other person, a win for the customer. So it just really, worked out in a great way. In that regard, I was able to build partnerships with people and get real feedback from them about how the partnerships were working. And, it was all email promotion. So they had an email list that they would send newsletters to. And so, they would cross promote my product in exchange for affiliate commission. I would cross promote their product in exchange for affiliate commission. And that was how it went. And it worked great. And it really helped me get up on my feet. And it's very different from an affiliate network or affiliates where, the affiliate is doing paid traffic or is a professional, email list manager and has many, many, many different email lists and email data. That's a totally different thing than what I was doing to start off. We do that now and that's helpful, but that's not how I got my business off the ground.
Sure. I wanted to jump to sort of another core skill that I saw that you grew, which is copywriting. Copywriting you saw was like going to be really essential to your business, and you were reading books. The books weren't really doing the trick, and so you jumped to coaches. You actually ended up employing one of your coaches at your company to teach your other copywriters. I wondered, are there a couple of like lessons in copywriting that you make sure to impart on every copywriter that comes through your company?
That's a good question. I do want to make the distinguishment that, this is direct response copywriting. So it's a very specific type of copywriting. Yeah, I mean, they're kind of the same skills that we filter people for when hiring. So I think probably one of the most important demonstrations of skills that I look for when hiring somebody, and also the thing, that's most important for them to learn, is to be able to write like very short, one sentence, headline sized pieces of information and how that really grips somebody. And, a lot of people might call that clickbait content, right? But I think some people do clickbait content really well to the point where you don't think it's clickbait, right? And you're clicking on it. And then there's other people where it's like, this is one of those stupid clickbait things, right? It's like kind of like you got two types of car salesman, right? You got the car salesman that makes everybody feel icky for some reason. They're too pushy, not very intelligent about things, not really thinking about the long term, maybe kind of trying to pressure people or screw people, not thinking about building long-term relationships. And then you've got that salesperson that just isn't doing any of that, is just really nice and personable, tries to be super helpful. And, the selling is in many ways invisible.
Right.
You just think, man, I just wish everybody was as nice and helpful as this person. And really, being nice, being helpful, picking up the phone, calling people back right away, going above and beyond is the trick. It's a sales tactic, right? Like you're just being a stand-up person, really helping somebody. And that's, causing them to go with you for the sale and hopefully coming back for you for years after. And that strategy snowballs, you keep those people hopefully for life. And so I think there's a similar thing when it comes to writing headlines. You've got, headlines where people roll their eyes and they're like, this sounds like one of those dumb clickbaits. I saw like Bill Maher's book on the bookshelf in a bookstore, and it's like a clickbait ad that says, what this comedian said will shock you. And, it's just like, if you're still working with copy like that, it's so annoying that it's comedy on the cover of a book, right? So if you're still writing headlines like that, you're going to get a lot of eye rolls and it's not going to work great. You really want someone who can write a good headline that doesn't sound like clickbait, but it's still going to get a lot of people to click. And that plays out, in every aspect of the business, right? You've got links and it's like, okay, what does the link say? Or what does the call to action say? You've got the titles on the pages, the headlines, and that's the same thing. It's short content that must grab attention. And a lot of people find that what the headline says is the biggest indicator on if someone reads the whole page. And then you've got the subject line in an email, right? Does someone even open and look at your email? It all goes back to the subject line or the first sentence of an SMS marketing text you send somebody. That's critical, right? That's probably one of the most powerful tools that somebody could have in their tool belt, is being able to do that well. And while it's a short phrase, it's an advanced skill. The other thing that I would say is being able to explain a unique concept well. Coming up with a unique concept and explaining it are sort of two different skills. But, with most of our products, right, we've got some big idea about the way that this product is working, right? Everyone's like, okay, I take the pill, I get XYZ result. But a lot of people want to know, like, what's actually going on in my body when I take this, right? Why does it work? So, for example, Ozempic's really popular right now. And everyone knows you take Ozempic, you lose your appetite, you lose weight. But a lot of people are like, well, how is that working, right? Like, they want to understand because they probably want to know if, judge better if it's safe to use or not.
Right.
The way that works is essentially the body creates a hormone letting you know that you're full, called GLP-1. But the problem is it doesn't last that long in the body. So these people have, these pharmaceutical companies have found a way to create this same hormone and make it last in your body almost a whole week instead of like an hour. So, that's what's actually happening in the body. And the better you can explain that to people in a way that doesn't sound like some, PhD who never talks to real people, and it also sounds persuasive, like, oh man, this sounds really effective. That's really important. And then, I would say that the third skill is just being able to tell a story. A lot of times you need to be able to tell some kind of story. It could be a story about, the doctor who's your spokesperson. It could be a story about how a product was developed. Like, sometimes some products do have some pretty interesting stories. Some don't. Some was just like, well, I was just, trying stuff in a lab. But other things are kind of wild. Like, the everyone knows the story about antibiotics, right? It was discovered by accident. Guy left a petri dish with penicillin out overnight. Bacteria didn't grow around the penicillin. The rest is history, right? And everyone loves his story because it was an accident. That's what's going on. Those three things: headline, being able to explain how a process works, and being able to tell a short story.
Yeah. I'm curious how you feel about maybe innovations in AI and copywriting. I know that you've put a real emphasis on the importance of staying ahead of the ball. We've got so much coming out in AI. Are you using any of these tools in your own business? Have you tested them in copywriting?
Yeah. I definitely tested them out. I see a lot of people writing about it. I see it's one of those clickbait gimmicks for people who sell marketing advice right now. My take right now on it, and I can't say that I've dug really deep, and I it seems like this stuff is just going to get better. But right now, it's really great for cranking out endless amounts of like C+, B- level content. But unfortunately, one of the things that I've found with copywriting in my market is the person with the best copy usually is doing 10 to 50 times better than the person with the B+, A-, right? The person who has the A+ and you have the A-, that person who has the A+ is doing 50 times better than you, in terms of revenue. So that every little increment that you can make the copy better really does separate the winners from the losers there.
How do you find new winning products in your industry? What sort of steps do you go through to commonly find those? And what makes you really pull the trigger on a new product and to create and roll out at scale?
Yeah, I mean, this is no doubt the most important thing. If you give a good sales guy a great product, that's going to work amazing, right? And like, a lot of people hold this belief that business owners don't realize that their product's not that great. And they're like, I just need a good sales guy to come in and solve all my problems, or a good affiliate to come in and solve all my problems. Right. But the good sales guy and the good affiliates are looking for the best products out there that are going to be the easiest for them to sell. Really, everything comes down to the product, in my opinion. But in order to come out with a good product, you do need to understand what good products have been in the past, and try to figure out what the commonalities are among those things in terms of, what the product is, how, like I said, and this is one of the things we try to filter copywriters for, is like how you explain to someone that this thing works, right? Because if you've got a problem that there's a lot of solutions out there for, and even a lot of health supplements out there for, let's take like brain health, for example, right? There's tons of health supplements. You've got to know that those people have probably seen a lot of options, right? And your product has to deliver something that really is different and better from what most people have heard. So, you got to have a good product that really does that in order to have a good explanation for why it works like that, but if you can just say, hey, I provide an internet service that's like the internet services you have, except it's cheaper and faster, right? Like, there's not much more else that you need to say to sell it other than that, right? Like, well, maybe it needs to be easy to install. You say, we can install it. You can install it from over the internet. I mean, that's like checkmate, right? Like, you would corner the entire market by doing that. And, the salespeople would have to do virtually no work because the product is so good. I think it's really important, for us, we want to see a product that is making a substantially better difference than what most people are aware of that's out there already. And ideally, we want to have, very good studies behind those products showing market results, not just vague things like, it made people's focus better, but like that it's specific about how much better it is, and that the amount is significant, right? Like, most people are not going to get excited around a 5% improvement. But if it's like a 25 to 50% improvement for certain people, is going to be of interest to people. I mean, I know it would be of interest to me. And I don't even, have problems with focus, but would I want 50% better focus every day? Yeah, totally. And then the last part of that is just making sure that there's a good story around things. Like, I do think that makes a difference. We do have a brain health supplement, and we work with a doctor who, has basically made it his life's work to focus on the brain. I mean, the brain and the heart, but, half of everything that he's done is the brain. And, he wrote a book on brain health. He produced his own TV show on brain health. He did his own clinical studies at his clinic that he owns on the brain. And, he put patients through a regimen that involves diet, activity, and certain supplements. And, within months, there was like a 25% improvement in their ability to do certain exercises. And that's measurable, right? Like, they got a sheet and they had to solve certain problems, and, they had 100 questions, and, they were able to do that, with greater accuracy and speed after going through the regimen, so to me, that's real. That's impressive, right? And that's a lot better than saying, there's a mushroom supplement that helps boost your memory, because, the first thing on people's minds is like, well, how much, right? And why aren't you saying how much, or why don't they know how much? I think rightfully so, in the supplement industry, there's a lot of skepticism. And obviously, you want to be able to give concrete information. Like I mentioned, that internet provider, right? Internet, if you're saying it's going to be faster, the first thing people are going to ask is, well, how much faster is it? And
Right.
you're expected to have concrete information about the speed. But if you've got that concrete information, and it's significant, it's game over for the other guys.
Yeah, I know I'm jumping around here, but I just want to kind of get all of this in. What constitutes a successful founder, in your opinion?
Gosh. Well, I could say like from, when I invest in companies, right? Uh, you know, I mean, we're talking about like the best of the best people in the world,
Yeah.
but, I'm looking for somebody who has knocked it out of the park, not once, not twice, but at least 3 times. Like that to me is a sign where it's like, okay, this person did not just get lucky. They're not a one-hit wonder. They hit home runs. That's what they do. That's kind of like the case with an entrepreneur, with a band that becomes big, right? Like, the bands that become big are usually not the one-hit wonders, right? They put out an album with a great single on it, and the second album is even better, and that solidifies their fame. So, it's the same thing I think with an entrepreneur. The more complex answer is there's a lot of things. I think first and foremost, the founder, you said founder, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, founder's got to have, that great home run idea.
Yeah.
Like they've got to have the technology for the faster internet or whatever it is, right? Like they got to say, I've got a great idea. But there's lots of people out there who they don't necessarily know what they're going to do, but they were just very motivated, wanted to start a company alone or with some friends, and eventually figured it out and eventually got that big idea. They didn't start with it, but they learned what they needed to learn and cut their teeth to the point where they were eventually able to come up with that big idea. So, I don't want to make people think that they need that out of the gate. There's plenty of stages of finding your way, figuring things out, not really knowing what you're doing, learning, getting mentored, trying and failing, but ultimately the goal is, come up with a great big idea that takes off.
Sure. And then just finally, as a CEO, how do you sort of decide what areas of your business get your day-to-day focus as your business grows?
Yeah. So, I went back and mentioned like, if you're just starting out in business, to focus on the foundational things. Like if you have a mentor or you want to go to, some sort of coaching situation or a mastermind, and they have all levels of prices of these things out there in which you can learn about business and different people. If you're starting off, you're no doubt going to learn about the principles, right? And one of the best principles that I learned is highest leverage, identify your highest leverage opportunities constantly, every hour, every day, once a week, whatever, reflecting on, what are the opportunities on the table? And if I put energy behind these opportunities, what is going to be the highest leverage, and that it's going to generate the most amount of revenue for the amount of effort that's getting put in. And, there might be near-term revenue generators and long-term revenue generators. Like you might say, okay, this is $100 million idea, but it would take 3 years to execute. And this other one's $1 million idea, and it's going to take 2 months to execute. And so, it can be hard sometimes to balance those things, but I think you've got to get a sense of, which one of those things is more important, the longer term goal or the shorter term goal. You've got to prioritize everything, and you've got to communicate that to the people that you work with, what the priorities are. I'm communicating the priorities every week, and, they're changing. As much as I like and try to have and strive for a consistent long-term vision, especially in a startup environment, the priorities change frequently. Something could happen on Wednesday and you're like, okay, this door closed and this is not a priority anymore. This partnership fell through. This person doesn't want to do the deal. And so, priorities changed immediately. So
Absolutely. Brett, really appreciate all of your time and your insight today. Just wrap us up here. Is there anywhere where people can find you or learn more about Pineapple products?
Yeah, honestly, it sounds like you found a lot of great stuff. I don't know if you could tell other people where you found that information because it's you did awesome research, and I think that information would probably be the most helpful for people right now. Like I'm very heads down in my business.
Well, that's great. That's pineapple.co for anyone who wants to follow along.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
All right. Thank you too.
If you are listening and you are interested in exploding your own digital growth, you can get in touch with Jump 450 in the link below in the description. That is www.jump450.com. And do not forget to subscribe for more weekly episodes. We'll see you next time.